What's going on, everybody? Thanks again for tuning in for another episode of Tech Talk Live here on YouTube and available on your podcast stream because you probably are listening to it either here or there or one of the two places. So tonight is myself, Mr. Captain Ron, and my good buddy, Mr. Rust Belt Mechanic.
What is happening, everybody? I am very glad to see everybody tuned into the show tonight. We got all kinds of great stuff rolling in here for you this evening. What we got rolling in there, Capitan?
All kinds of good topics for this evening. We're going to talk about the rise of hot rod trucks, the end of some print magazines, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff that goes along with working in a shop in general, mostly about tools. So we got some good stuff lined up for this evening. So first of all, we're going to welcome the five people who are here on time, but I'm sure there'll be a lot more people coming in. So thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully we'll see a bunch more people rolling in here pretty soon. So, Mr. Rust Belt, how was your weekend this weekend?
Lazy, extra lazy. Well, for the most part, my mom had surgery, so I had to get her in and about through there. I was able to go into work pretty early yesterday morning and do some recording, that of which I did post the one video yesterday. Posted that one up on my on my 6-step process for diagnosing any vehicle. That one's going to turn out pretty good, I think. I think that one's going to roll pretty awesome. But I
Right
got
on.
another one recorded too that'll be posting early next week also.
Very cool. Yeah, I need to get back on the roll of doing those because I have not done any for, well, a couple of weeks now. So I need to get back on the ball doing it. But now we got some people rolling in. We got Everyday Fleet Tech, Mr. Novotaz, Speedy Chicks Garage, Chris M, and Justin White, and Mr. Nathan Comel, who was here 5 minutes early. So good job, everybody. Liking the liking the McBake and Rust Belt intros. I mean, they're okay.
Yeah, it's kind of an inside gig thing. Some of the people put some hate comments on Mick Bake's videos. I'm like, what are you going, with this Rust Belt guy for? I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's kind of an inside joke thing with the shop. I think it's all fun and games. I'm actually kind of enjoying it, not just to tell you the truth with it.
No, what it is, he got tired of doing videos with me, so now he's like moving on to the new guy.
No, we just the whole, like you said earlier, the videos aspect.
I know what you're talking about. All right, so we're going to go ahead and roll into the first topic for tonight, and that is, like I mentioned before, the rise in hot rod trucks. And we're not talking about Kyle's Duramax truck. That doesn't count.
Why not? Why that doesn't count?
because
Whatever.
because it's your
It's your
truck.
show.
It's our show. We can talk about your truck. Your truck kind of falls in the same line because, to be entirely honest, you're putting out as much horsepower as what some of those hot rod trucks are putting out anyway. So,
Or more.
or more. So yeah, I mean, we're talking about like, I had an article pulled up, but we ended up scrapping it for lack of knowledge, I guess you could say, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But we were looking at like the Shelby F-150 Super Snake that just got released. But just the popularity of all these hot rod trucks that are coming around. Like our dealership, for example, we sell a ton of Rocky Ridge upfitted Ram 1500s. But there was also some trucks back in the day, like the SRT 10, which was a Ram truck with a Viper engine in it, and then the Ford Lightning back in the 90s. So, just what's your thoughts about these new hot rod trucks that are coming up?
So, first thought on these is why? I mean, of course, then again, that's a lot of the upfitted vehicles that I obviously, have the same reaction to these days that we sell on our lot between the Rocky Ridge lifted trucks and the Wranglers and the Jeep Gladiators is why? Because they cost so much money.
Right
They
there, right there is why. It's the money.
Yeah, it costs so much money, but this whole automotive industry, especially aftermarket wise, has a lot of room where people want to be able to put that money, and not everybody is a quote unquote car guy. For instance, our the owner of our dealership, he is not a car guy. He's got his pick of the litter. He could have vets, he could have challengers, he could have
Mhm.
whatever he wants, but what does he choose to drive all the time? Ram
An eco diesel.
1500s and diesel Grand Cherokees.
An
That's
eco diesel is what he's currently driving.
Yes, he's a truck guy. So there's that market out there where the guys they just have to have a truck, even if you got to put a freaking bed cover on the top, put a tonneau cover on it, fancy it up, put some extra hearse purrs to it. But they want to spend their money on it, and it's kind of a big industry, but it's in its own like little niche corner of it. It costs a lot to be able to upfit these things, and because there's not a huge market to them, they're made more along the custom lines, which is obviously meaning they're not made in a conveyor belt style, and it costs more per unit to be able to upfit them. On
Hmm.
top of that, cost of upfit right now in the industry, it's expensive. It really is. So they have to go through each one of these engine parts pretty much that's sold for the upfit has to have its own upcharge because they come from so many different suppliers back and forth. So I mean, even baseline upfits from a lot of these companies, you're looking at spending at least minimum amount is 25 grand. And when you think about the up cost, the markup on each one of those individual parts and everything, they're probably making, I'd say 8 grand or so at least on these upfit kits.
Yeah. Nathan Como brings up good points. He says, I hate the pavement princess trucks. Why buy a truck if you're not going to use it as a truck? Because a lot of these high-end trucks like this, and you and I both know that even the Rocky Ridge ones that are built for more rugged stuff, nobody uses them for a truck. They use them as a status symbol.
That is very true. Where people can put their money is what they like to show off. And yeah, I see a lot more trucks coming through in the way of car shows. And
Hmm.
I kind of like to see that one just because I like seeing different things. I am not a fan of the classic old school hot rods of the 1970s and late 60s where they had the largest sales amounts in like the 1969 Camaros and Novas and Chevelles, and just so many people have them. They're so overplayed that it's kind of boring to see, even though they are gorgeous cars. I will not say anything against that. I'm not one for the one that everybody has.
Yeah. Everyday Fleet Tech also mentions that they need to bring back small trucks. Us 80s and 90s kids that loved the mini truck phase would buy them and mod them now that we have adult money. So going along the same lines as him, I had my first actual truck that I owned was an S10. I actually had an S10 that I bought off somebody, and it was already like prelowered. And for whatever reason, the person before me took the steering wheel and they chopped the top half of the steering wheel and the bottom half of the steering wheel off, so it looked like a two-handed racing wheel.
Yep.
And took like um plastic caps that you put on the bottom of like chair legs and put them over the steering wheel so you wouldn't cut yourself when you're trying to turn. Yeah, that thing was kind of a special little thing.
I remember back in the era of the mini trucks,
Yep,
the early '90s, the late '80s with the S10s and
the
stuff.
Rangers.
Oh yeah. So my wife's brother, my brother-in-law, he was big into the mini truck game here locally. Now I think that's where the beginning of the car series online, where or on the TV shows, Monster Garage, and all those crazy things came from those mini truck builds, because all these guys who were in high school, they were throwing whatever they could in there to make them so custom. I mean, I don't know how many I saw with custom lighting, fish tanks in them. For some reason, they thought that that was a cool thing to put fish tanks in trucks. I
I
don't
don't
really
I don't
understand.
I don't know why that would be a cool thing to do. Take a hard corner and all your fish go out the window.
Yep, slammed on the ground with like no suspension to them. They chop the coil springs off all the time, so it wouldn't be anything to see one of these with 22s chop coil springs. It was a pretty everyday affair to be able to see that one. And you imagine what Craigslist or say like or the marketplace would have been like if they would have had it in the early '90s.
Oh yeah. It'd been crazy.
It would have been S10s and Rangers till the eyes could not see anymore on those.
Yeah. Yeah, don't forget the neon kits that people put on them as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember one of my first jobs working at the dealership was to put a neon kit on. And that was yeah, something else. Yeah, Speedy Chick, she's got a crazy nice hot rod truck. Have you seen that one?
I think I have, yes.
She's got her Scat DAC. It's
Mhm.
I believe it was like a 2000, 2002, something like that. Dakota with a 6.1
If
Hemi
if
in it.
if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that didn't that get put into a calendar?
I'm not sure,
She
but
had
it's pretty sweet.
I'm pretty sure she has one of her vehicles in a calendar this year.
Yeah,
She's gonna have to let us know about that.
definitely. She's also got a YouTube channel. So
Yep,
if you guys
yeah,
2000.
the 2000 Dakota got put into into a calendar.
Yep, the Scat DAC. So she does have a YouTube channel also. So if you guys haven't checked out her page, make sure you go and put that one in your watch list.
Yep, definitely. I'll say we'll have to have Speedy Chick back on sometime.
Definitely.
So, all right. Well, anything else we need to touch on this subject for right
Mm,
now?
No, I mean that's as much as I can fill in about trucks anymore without going into the diesel trucks, which you guys don't always want to talk about.
I don't
You
know.
guys and your diesels. I can see freaking McBake in the background. He wants to talk about his diesels and them rigs. Them nice
Yeah,
rigs, man.
one of these days we'll get him into one.
Yeah.
So, speaking of vehicles and having the necessity to work on them, next up we're going to talk about tools, and this is a topic that Mr. Rustbelt came up with, and he says, "How much does the label, quote unquote, made in America, affect your decision in buying tools?" So, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, so anymore, it is kind of a selling point to a lot of tool companies, manufacturers, tool lines to be able to have that label made in America. Now, us as technicians in these days, they are it's a huge decision for a lot of guys because the automotive industry is to the point where the technicians have to buy all their tools. They aren't really supplied by any kind of jobs pretty much anymore. Granted, yes, there are some, but very very few. So technicians are spending their own money on their own tools and they're having to spend more and more on it. So they have to put a lot more effort and a lot more I guess, research into purchasing the tools so they feel like they're spending their money wisely. So manufacturing has become a big selling point because other manufacturing areas in the world, not just the US, have had some I guess backlog of being known as inferior tools, one would say. And it was, at least here in America, I'm a big proponent. I like having the fact that tools that are made here in America are putting Americans to work. I like seeing the fact that people here locally put their heart and soul into making a product, and it's a great thing to see. But I mean, that's what I want to see from you guys, percentage wise. What do you think that one stamp on the tool puts into the purchasing power that these companies are putting through? I mean, yes, there's got to be you guys have to think about how the tool works, the longevity, warranty. You have to talk about what you like in it, whether it works compared to other things on the market. But globally, what does that one do for you?
So, in chat so far, we have Everyday Fleet Tech coming in with a 90% of that's how much it means to him. But several people are saying, that like Novitas says, is everything truly made from start to finish in the US? I mean, half time they're getting steel from another country or they're getting parts from another country and then assembling it in the United States. Speedy Chick says the global economy, and she personally looks for quality first as opposed to whether or not it's made in America or not.
Now, me personally, I would have to say that the if everything else matches up down the line on what I want in the tool, it has a warranty, It works for the job I want it to, and it is a good quality tool. Say everything matches up. There's a product that's made in Taiwan and there's a product that's made in the USA. I will always buy the tool that's made in the US. Now that is also I guess just a point of mine because I like to support American companies and what
Mhm.
they are doing for the local economies. A lot of the times, these tool manufacturers, they're not big bulk branded tools that are made here in the US. The big company names like that aren't usually made in the US. There's a lot of smaller companies that are. And those are the ones I love to see. And I've got a really cool one coming up this week in a video also. So you'll
I,
have to stay tuned on that one.
I bet I know what that one is.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I'll even pull up something here shortly on that one that we can show that one. It's actually a open-ended ratcheting line wrench from Tribus. So it's really, really cool tools, and every piece of it is made right here in the USA. 95% of the tools are made locally here in this state,
Mhm.
Ohio. So
Like literally an hour from us.
not even that. Yeah,
Yeah,
20
exactly.
minutes.
Yeah. So, do we want to move the bottom subject up to match this topic, or do we want to come back to that later?
No, we can bring that one up after we get talking to this one. But I want to talk so that is just my personal opinion point on this one. Now, if I think back, probably I don't know, we'll say 6 to 8 years ago, when I was a newer technician and money cost-wise was a bigger portion into buying these tools than what like Novataz said earlier, he doesn't make enough to be that picky. If you're
Hmm.
not able to
Me
have that
neither.
ability to say, okay, well, I have the ability to buy whichever one of these, I would rather buy it because of where it's made. Is
Yeah.
that still something that you look at Ron, being a newer tech?
I mean, being a newer tech and being another, in the same boat as Novataz is that I don't make enough money to be picky like that. I mean, granted, I'm gonna look for stuff like that, but my biggest thing is I'm gonna be looking at price because if the one that's made in America is double the price of the one that's made outside of America and they both do the same thing, unfortunately I'm gonna have to go with the cheaper version that you know just because I just don't have the amount of money to spend on something like that. Like I've been shopping around for cordless ratchets for the longest, for the last 2 weeks. And if I can find one that's going to be a lot cheaper, but still give me about the same stuff as one that would be in America, that may be a couple $100 more. I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the cheaper one until I'm starting to make some of that better money. And then I can worry more about being supportive of the made in USA stamp of approval.
That makes sense. It really does. And like I said, earlier on in my career, that was something that was more relevant was, yeah, I like the idea of the made in America, but it doesn't really affect me that much. I'd rather have a tool that I can afford that does the job. You have to be able to weigh out those consequences to what you're able to afford in those things. Like I said, just me personally, if I can afford either one of them, I will buy the made in US one every single time.
Yeah. Michigan Mechanic says that's what Snap on Credit is for. It's funny you say that, Michigan Mechanic,
Exactly.
because our next topic is talking about tool debt and how it's affected the automotive industry. So we were doing some research um, for the podcast this evening, and I ran across a article. This was from back in February, but I still feel like it is relevant no matter what time of the year or how old this is. It's
True that.
still a relevant topic.
Yep.
Talking about how new technicians, for example, this gentleman that is interviewed in this, he was 18 years old, living at home with mom and dad, $200 in expenses, and he was like, money's no option. I'm buying all the tools I possibly can, and racked up a ton of tool debt. And then, despite working what he calls "quote unquote" crazy hours, he ended up returning like almost $8,000 worth of tools just so that he can get his tool debt down to where it was actually
Portable.
manageable. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, talking about tool debt, and I know we've talked about that before on the live stream on several occasions, but it's just something that just needs to come up every once in a while, just because it's Christmas time. You got to worry about money for Christmas, you got to worry about money for bills, and then on top of that you got to worry about money for tools so that you can make the money for the other two. um what's your thought about, I mean, obviously we talked about this before, what's your thought about tool debt?
So I am always going to be the proponent to say that tool debt is not a good thing to have. You need to be your own keeper of your money, and you got to be able to understand where your comfort levels are going to be at before you even step foot either into a tool store or on a tool truck. You have to be able to set limits to what you are seeing there before you even do that one. Now, McBake brings up a good point, and we're going to bring up this story right here. There is a tool that he really, really wanted on one of the tool trucks this last week. He wanted it. It
Matco.
brought up, it was a fantastic buy. And I was telling him that, hey, this is a really, really good deal. So I gave him my points of view on this one, and he walked off the truck without purchasing it. Now, in seeing that, I saw him pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the tool guy, he was still there. I'm like, dude, later on, this is going to be one of those tools that you use every single day. I said, and you're never going to see a deal like this one again. So I gave him another line that I said, you're never going to see that deal again. It was just that good of a deal. Now, yes, I will even admit to myself that that was a little bit amount of pressure, that a lot of
a,
people
a
couldn't.
little bit.
A couple
Hey,
of people
hey,
probably could have gotten away without of.
hey, Baker, go buy this now. Go buy it.
It was not that much. Now, he is a big boy. He is also able to make up his own decision
No, he's
and
not.
able,
He's like 5'2".
just because he's little doesn't make him like a little person. But that was the biggest point. And even if there are those things that are such good deals, then you have to be able to either walk away or validate it in what you are purchasing to be able to afford that debt. Debt is something that is going to haunt you for a long time. So you have to be able to afford it, to be able to make the payments, and have a set plan on how you can get rid of it. Because if you are putting it onto credit, you're racking up debt, and you don't have a short term plan on how to get rid of that debt, then you are going to keep that revolving debt for the rest of your life, and it's not going to be good. The tool
Yep.
guy's going to love it. He's going
Oh
to keep
yeah.
on rolling that freaking stack of cash all day long,
Yep.
racking up all of that income and in extra fees and charges all the time. So, yeah.
Yep. And Novotaz says, and I completely agree with him. He's like, I hate when stuff comes up that you need or want, but the funds just aren't there. Like, there's been several times that Matco's came in and he's got this ratcheting set of long wrenches that are ratcheting on both sides, but they're it's two different sizes. You've seen these in Rust Belt's videos because he's talked about it. Uh, he he's had him in front of my face on numerous occasions, and one day he came in, he was like, I've got them for this price, and it's like a stupid good deal. And I'm like, oh, I really want them, I really need them, I could use them a lot, but I still don't want to spend that much money. I was like, I don't want to rack up that big of a tool debt on his truck when I've already got a big enough tool debt on Snap-on's truck, and I just don't need that kind of rolling debt on two trucks, let alone one. Um, so yeah, I totally get the whole, them trying to wiggle, the good deals into your face and be like, Come onto the truck and get
especially
this.
when there's multiple trucks that come to each shop.
Oh
They've
yeah.
got to be able to one up each other on
Oh
their,
yeah.
promotions to be able to try to sell stuff to these technicians, especially
Yep.
here in Ohio. I mean, this is, we'll say a lower income area of the country. This is definitely not a Southern California area where people are, racking in some pretty good dough when it comes to automotive stuff. It's not very great pay here in this area. So a lot of the guys they struggle a lot as a shop truck owner. So it's cool seeing them jump back and forth and everything, but at the point where they are fighting for the guy's credit, not just for their business, but who they can get that has a good enough credit to get the tools,
Well,
it's kind of sad.
it's funny you say that is because I was on the truck the other day looking at or it was a Snap-on truck actually, looking at 3/8 ratchets because I need one. And I was like, I was like getting prices from him and everything like that. They weren't on sale, but I still needed the prices. And he was like, "Well, hey, we can run your credit one more time and see if there's any open to buy to see, see if we can roll some stuff in to get, put it on the truck account." I'm like, no, I don't want to do that."
Nope, I am really, really glad that you made that decision not to do that one
I mean,
because seeing your credit that many times.
I threw the wife under the bus, and I was like, I want to talk to the wife about it first, but it was a good enough lie that he bought it.
You also have to think of there's certain aspects in which you see other guys getting these tools, and I could see where it's really hard for you and McBake too because I spend a shit ton on tools.
Dude, you
I
have like literally every tool almost.
I spend a lot on tools, and it is not
Why do
a
you
good
think
idea to
why do you
try to
think
look.
I'm at your toolbox all the time? Because you have shit that I need.
I know, but that's also it's more of a crutch, I guess, for a lot of the other guys, for you and McBake, because you look at that kind of tool set and you don't really have an aspect of understanding where it comes from to not have those available in another tech's toolbox. So when I started out, my mentor at the time, big old Ralph, he's a good old boy. He didn't believe in buying a whole lot of tools. He had a lot, but that's also because he had 28 years in it.
Mhm.
But he had a lot of some of the things that I didn't have. So I borrowed them every once in a while, but he wasn't a big proponent for electric tools very much. So he didn't have a lot of those. So I didn't come up in the automotive industry using a lot of those things. And some of the times, like you talking about really, really, really wanting that electric ratchet, how many years has so many other technicians gotten by on the flat rate system without having an electric ratchet?
Oh no, I don't discount the fact. I mean, hell, I'm now breaking out my Air 3/8 even more. I mean, I haven't touched my air tools in I don't know how long, but the fact that I'm needing my 3/8 ratchet even more, I'm breaking it out just because I want that ability. I don't want to have to use the hand tools if I don't have to because obviously it's going to take longer, but straight six fan, welcome to the show. He says that take note of which tools you borrow most, and then you know which ones you actually need to buy. And I still do that myself. I mean, there's several tools that I go, uh, I go to Kyle's toolbox, and I'm like, man, I've borrowed this like 3 or 4 times. Sometimes it's that many times in a week. Like an air hammer, I need an air hammer, and but every time I go to price them and look at them, it's like, man, I just don't. It's a lot of money to spend, but I know in the long run, it's going to be something I'm going to need, and it's going to be something I'm going to need for the extension of my entire career. So eventually, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and buy one.
Right. And that's where you have to be able to balance out what you need to tool debt. If you can't afford to purchase it all up front in those aspects, you have to be able to balance and then also prioritize what is going to be most important to make me the most amount of money in this list.
Yep.
Because I mean, for instance, that air hammer, yes, it's a really big thing and really important to have, but how often do you use that compared to something else that you might really, really want?
And that's why I haven't pulled the trigger on buy. No pun intended. I haven't pulled the trigger on buying one yet because like I said, it comes in waves. There was one week I did 4 lower ball joints and I needed that air hammer for like 4 times in a week, and I haven't touched it since. So But I turn around and I use my 3/8 ratchets and my 3/8 air ratchet all the time. So that's almost number one on my shopping list right now because that's something I'm consistently going after.
Hmm. Now there's the other point of consistently going after. If it wasn't there to be able to consistently go after, would your list change because
You
you haven't used it for
No,
months?
I don't mean consistently going after like going down to your toolbox. I'm talking about consistently in my mind. I'm like, I'm grabbing my hand tools, my 3/8 hand tools, and I'm like, damn, I really wish I had a 3/8 or 3/8 electric so I could do this instead of having to use my hand tools.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not talking about like walking down to your toolbox and stealing yours. I'm talking I'm talking about in my mind, I'm like, hey, this would be a lot easier if I had one of my own. But I'm still doing it by hand.
Truck master come in. He's like, I wouldn't buy any tools. Save money and borrow all the rust belts.
Right? That's what I'm doing. Shh.
There's quite a few of those that happen anymore. And I really don't mind that because there's a lot of tools in my toolbox that are not bought out of necessity, but bought out of I want something shiny or just because of YouTube. There's been a couple of things
Yeah.
that I probably wouldn't have bought had I not had YouTube to be able to show them on here. Now, don't get me wrong, every single tool that I buy and I put on YouTube are tools that I actually use. Now,
Eh,
point out one,
your Motivex set.
I didn't buy anything
I
from
did
there.
buy those. Let's see. What did you buy that you
And I
haven't
didn't do a
used?
review on those either. I showed where they came from.
Let's see. Um, I guarantee I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I guarantee there's one tool that you bought that you don't use.
Now, there was one single tool that I did a review on that I said at the end of the video, I was not going to keep this tool and I was going to give it back. One single tool out of the entire last year and a half. And that was actually funny enough. Jim, Mr. JRC54, did his top 5 Snap-on tools of this last year, and it made his top 5 list.
What was it?
It was the Bluetooth pressure sensor thing
Oh
from
yeah.
Snap-on,
Yeah,
where
I
it
remember.
actually reads fuel pressure, air pressure, vacuum, transline pressure, oil pressure, all those things, and then it sends out a Bluetooth signal to your smartphone. Great tool, and it was. I showed exactly how it was used,
You could
that
have
it was
used that instead of breaking your gauge.
yeah, exactly. But, at the point where I'm like, "All right, I already have all of these gauges and everything," plus a lot of the time you want that Bluetooth if you don't have 2 people, like for reading compression, having
Mhm.
somebody crank it while you're reading and switching the thing back and forth. For the guys like JRC who are in a shop by himself, then that tool makes a lot of sense for him to get.
Yeah.
But for me, in our shop where we have all kinds of guys and minions to be able to work through things, then it
No.
makes then it makes more sense to not have that and just use my standard gauges that I already own and not having to spend an extra $500-600 on that Bluetooth pressure tool. So,
Is Ma-
you know,
is McBake on this stream that I don't see? I don't see. I don't know.
uh-huh.
Um, what was it? Hang on. Nathan Como says McBake shouldn't have to buy any tools because he has Rust Belt's clicker for the Echo locks. That is my Echo clicker for Rust Belt's toolbox. Thank you very much.
They fight over the extra clicker on those.
That lives in my toolbox.
Mhm. But yeah,
Well,
that's why I said, with that, to that point of it, having those tools available to you, they might make a difference in purchasing them, but you guys really have to look at your cost effectiveness to what you're making compared to what you can afford debt wise. And you have to talk and think about these things before you ever even go look to purchasing any kind of tools.
yeah,
Otherwise, you guys will end up like a lot of guys that are, in debt, that they don't even look at what kind of financial stability they're going to be in over the next month or what could be coming up. They buy a lot of tools and then they're buried.
yep, exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. If you guys want some tools that are not going to break the bank, there is actually a little bit of a promotion going on this month. Matter of fact, it's going on for the next 2 days, and that's for Toolheads Crate.
Yes, it is. Our monthly subscription crate service, which is called toolheadscrate.com. I'm sure the captain can put that one down into the comments there. It
Somewhere.
is our monthly subscription crate service where we come out with every single month tools, discount codes, apparel items, different attaching items for tools, lubricants, all kinds of stuff that we've been able to put in here. Did we say tools? We added
Yeah.
tools, right?
I'm pretty sure tools were on there. I mean, it's in the name.
Yep, all kinds of tools that we put into these crates. $35.99 a month plus exact shipping, so we aren't overcharging on the shipping for that one. We are running
However,
a special.
yes, we are running a special. It's going to last for the next 2 more days. So if you guys haven't got into to checking out Toolheads Crate, now is your best time to do it. Biggest discount we've done all year, probably since we've actually had it. It is a 15% discount on new 1-month subscriptions. That is going to be, I don't know, what is 15% of 35.99 is. But you'll get it for your first month subscriptions. You'll use the code JRCDEC. That's JRC December. That will get you $15 off at checkout if you use that coupon code. So make sure you guys check that out if you guys want to. It is a monthly recurring subscription crate, but every 10th of the month is when the cutoff is, and then on the 15th, everything's sent out to your door. Like he said, apparel, tools, accessories, cleaning supplies, food sometimes. I mean, we had beef jerky in there one month.
Dude, that beef jerky was killer.
Yeah, it was.
It really was.
So, guys, make sure you check that out. Toolheadscrate.com is the place to be.
Heck yeah. So what we got going on next?
Next, we're going to talk about magazines.
Ooh, magazines, like the kind that you read on the shitter or the kind you read in the dentist's office?
A little of both. I mean,
Okay.
it depends on where you like to do your reading. There was an article that was put out Friday, actually, that one of the big automotive magazine publishing companies, which is called 10 Publishing, are going to actually stop making print magazines. They've got 22 titles in total, and they're getting rid of 19 of them.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. So, I mean, how is this going to affect like every single waiting room and, sitting area across the United States? And so this what was the publishing? 10 Publishing.
10 Publishing.
So they have 22 publications?
22
Total publications.
Yep, 22
titles that they put out. They're cutting print magazines for 19 of them.
Yeah. Now they're going to keep the e-magazine portion of it, so you'll be able to go online and still read the monthly magazine. However, you're going to have to do it through, Apple Books or on your iPad or Android tablet or wherever you read magazines online. But they're getting rid of everything with the exception of Motor Trend, Hot Rod, and Four Wheeler. So that
Four Wheeler, wow, that's one of the ones they're keeping.
Yeah,
I see Motor Trend and Hot Rod. I got that one.
Yeah. So here's some of the ones they're getting rid of. They're getting rid of
we're getting rid of CarCraft. That was a surprising one. Diesel Power Magazine, dude. Yeah. I love getting. Me personally, I still like getting paper magazines. That's just my personal opinion on it. I still get some every single month. Mopar Muscle, they cut. Lowrider Magazine.
Lowrider was one from my childhood, and honestly, not for the models, for the cars.
Whatever.
Don't judge me.
You looked at that one for the TNA.
I mean, yeah, but I also looked at it for the. I mean, I had an Impala in high school, so I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. Mopar Muscle, they're getting rid of. Street Rodder, Super Chevy, Super Street, Truck Trend, Truckin'. What else were they getting rid of? Vet, yeah. Mustang Monthly.
Yeah, whatever. That can burn.
Whatever.
I just think that's weird that they cut so many all at once. I
Yeah.
could have seen if they would have cut, like 5 or 6 of them in certain categories from the lineup in slower portions of it, other than the fact that they are probably up against the wall financially to be able to have to do this, so they had to make cuts somewhere. That's
Well,
my guess why they cut so many at once.
well, and not only that, but I mean, print is kind of a dead medium anymore. I mean, not just for magazines, but I mean, even for newspapers. I mean, hell, when's the last time you bought a newspaper?
Black Friday.
Exactly. That's about the only time people buy a newspaper is on Black Friday, or if some huge event happens and they want it to keep for nostalgic purposes or to sell later on down the road when they think it'll actually make money. I
But
mean,
will it
it's
affect those, like I said, the places that you really want to still see magazines, monthly subscription services, waiting rooms,
yep.
literally everywhere that you go to? They're what are they going to do? Throw out iPads for everybody to see? They're going to have to put
Well,
magazines, and I guess you're going to have to watch TV now.
I mean, to be entirely honest, how many people own cell phones? Everybody sits in a waiting room.
Possibly.
Everybody sits in a waiting room and they look at their phones, or like you said, most places have a TV on the wall and they'll watch the TV on the wall. No, how often are those magazines in our waiting room picked up and looked at?
Like I said, me personally, I am the one that if I have to go into some kind of waiting room, I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna read the magazines before I watch the TV. Just my personal opinion on things. I'm
You're
sure
so
I
you're
can't
telling
be the
me
only one.
so you're telling me you won't be packing your iPad in there and editing a video instead of reading their magazines?
I didn't throw that in there as a choice.
We
Now,
know better.
yesterday,
We know better,
yesterday, like
Kyle.
I said earlier in the stream, my mom had to have surgery, so I had to take her into surgery yesterday, and I read a magazine yesterday. I
Oh yeah,
did.
what magazine?
It was Car and Driver,
Oh
and
yeah.
they would still have that one.
Well, even though they just laid off a bunch of people, but you
Yeah.
know, whatever. Um, Going along the same line as print magazines that are dying, Auto Week is also another one that is going to be not in print anymore. They're gonna be operated by another company, and they're gonna put out the ebook, but they're not gonna make a print version of Auto Week anymore either.
Auto Week, I really never did see that one. I know they had the TV show is huge on the Auto
Mhm.
Week side of things, but I never really did see that one in magazine form.
I think I saw it a couple times, but I'm about the same way. I just didn't see anything.
Car and
So
Driver is still going to be around though.
yeah, Car and
Glad to
Driver
see
will
that.
still be around, so we'll have that one.
Hmm.
So moving on to the last one, which is another topic from Mr. Rust Belt Mechanic himself, charity work.
We'll go into that one. We're talking charity work here on vehicles. So, us as technicians, we have a skill that not a lot of other people have. And now we also like to do good things for people every once in a while. Not all the time. Our skills are very valuable and they should not be given away for free very often, but we're talking about charity work, especially around the holidays. Now, I want to hear from some of you guys. Leave comments down below, if you will, on what you guys do in the way of charity work in the holidays. Every year, we usually like to do some kind of charity work, whether it be for any of the local churches, school systems, things like that, to be able to help out some people in the Christmas and the holiday season on, being down on their luck. And having vehicles break is always a big, big bummer in the
Hmm.
holiday season.
Oh yeah.
So, did you get to see the one that we towed in this last week?
No, I think it was towed in when I was gone to training, so I have not seen it at all.
Right. So we towed in. We had a family from the local school system that had this old Suburban, and they had a house fire. It was not very good. So they ended up, getting a whole lot of other things given to them through the school system, helped them out. It was a great cause for that one. And they also said, well, their one form of transportation that they have, the brake lines blew out on it. And I'm like, all right, that's awesome. Let's go ahead and rock that one. We can do that one, charity wise here for this one, especially since we're getting the information from the school system. We're not getting this second hand from Shaniqua who said my baby's mama's daddy said his cars broke down. No, it wasn't that situation. So we got this vehicle in, and I've done charity work lots before, and I've helped people out there down on their luck. They're legit down. But every once in a while, you get had by those people. We got this thing in, and I actually got to looking at it. And when I'm talking down in your luck, this vehicle's luck was down probably 4 or 5 years ago. This thing looks like it had been sitting in weeds for about 4 years. The brakes are pretty much almost totally rusted up. Brake lines obviously rusted through, blown out everywhere. Uh, Barely got it started. Had a marine battery in it with one of the refillable ones where you have to put
A marine battery?
Yep, a marine battery that you have to put the stuff into to
I
keep it
mean,
up.
I'm
The
I'm
maintenance
I'm just
style
gonna be
ones.
honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be just as surprised as the people in chat because I've heard nothing about this vehicle.
Yeah,
So, marine battery, full of
yeah.
weeds.
And we
Okay, what
weren't we
else?
weren't even going to do a video on this one. This was just to help somebody out. We didn't have any cameras out during this entire time. Nothing at all. It's just to help them out. But we thought that we were just going to be doing brakes. But we couldn't get it started. So it took me 20 minutes to get it started. Finally got it started. It was only running on 6 or 7 cylinders of the V8. So finally got it inside. It's chugging away like nobody's business. Get it up in the air. It's leaking brake fluid. Trans lines and the trans pans dripping down onto the exhaust, smoking everywhere. Oil pan leaking all over the place. Valve covers leaking all over the place. I go to look up front. I'm getting sprayed in the face with coolant. The water pump's blown out all over the front of it.
Wow.
Every single body panel along the side has some kind of dents in it. There's no rocker panels left. They're gone, just
Mhm.
rusted all the way out.
Yeah.
Tires are shot, brakes are all shot. I'm like, even if I wanted to fix the brake lines, I would have had to replace every single brake line in this, every single wheel cylinder, all the brakes for this one, and I would have had to, we would have had to put at least $700 or $800 into just making it stop, and that's not even making it run.
Right.
So at that point, doing some of these charity things, where are we having the issue in in seeing these people having charity work versus something that should be in the junkyard?
So, my curiosity is they were driving this?
So that is where my discrepancy of this vehicle comes in, because they say that they were. However, I don't think that this vehicle's been running for probably a couple of years. That would be my personal
I
guess
mean,
on it.
from what you're explaining to me, it sounds like it hasn't. I mean, it sounds like just like you said, like it's been sitting in a field somewhere and you might open up the trunk, there might be a family of raccoons sitting back there.
And that was the other thing that I can see, and I've done a lot of work on people's vehicles for charity like this one, and the granted, yes, they were having a hard time, but boy, this thing was trashed. The inside of this vehicle was way trashed. It was not taken care of prior to this fire happening.
Mhm.
So they obviously did not care about the vehicle. I
No.
get it, hard on times, and some of the maintenance things might get missed here and there, but there's a point in which you got to cut your losses. And we ended up having, this is the first time I've ever had to tell somebody that we're going to do charity work on their vehicle, that we said, I'm going to be totally honest on this one. It's not even worth doing charity work on.
Right.
It's not capable of being a viable vehicle for somebody for what the vehicle is worth. If
Yeah.
we would have rolled that thing up to the junkyard will probably only give you 200 or 300 bucks for it, and that's if you can drive it in. If it
Yeah.
stays running long enough to drive it in.
Exactly. So what's the long and the short of this? I mean, what are we doing anything for them?
So evidently at this point, the lady ended up saying, no, I don't know if it's a sentimental kind of thing or what, but she ended up saying, no, we don't want to take it to the junkyard. We'll see about getting it taken out. If you guys have the ability to tow it back somewhere, we'll get it worked on throughout the next year or so. And I can kind of commend him for that one.
So
But yeah,
she basically said, "No, this isn't our vehicle we drive all the time. This is just a sentimental vehicle that we want to keep, and we want to possibly get it running again."
I don't know if it was that, but that was the only thing that I could, mentally put through here to think of it being worth keeping. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just one of those things, and I get it. People, they aren't always up to date on their vehicle and keeping them all, taken care of. But at the same time, there's a level at which I don't think that there's worth even doing charity on some vehicles.
Exactly. Andrew Vin says she took you guys, Kyle. Can't phrase it differently, bro.
And the bad thing was, it wasn't even like me specifically or us specifically. This was the local school system who talked to us to try to see about getting help from somebody. And we said, oh, yeah, definitely, no problem. She took the school system on that one. I
Yeah.
was really, really surprised at that.
Well, hopefully she gets something figured out. But
I feel bad for him.
I got a feeling that from what you're saying, it's not going to be help for that car.
Yeah, like I said, I feel bad for him. It doesn't matter who it is. People hard down on their luck, especially during the holiday season. I feel really bad for those people, but there's just a point at which you have to cut your losses on that one, and that vehicle needed its losses cut 2 or 3 years ago.
Right. Well, I mean, charity work is all and good, but like you said, there's sometimes you just can't do it. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Pretty much.
So all right, well, as for the tail end of our podcast, speaking of podcast, if you guys haven't checked us out over on your favorite podcast aggregate, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Stitcher's our most popular platform, by the way. But any place you find podcasts, you guys can find us as well. Make sure you guys share with your friends that if they can't be here on Sunday night, they can always listen to us on the podcast. It's the same title, Tech Talk Live with Rust Belt and the Captain.
Yep.
We upload this typically within an hour or so after we actually do airing of this recording. But yeah, we put it up there, and that way, if you guys don't have a chance to catch us on the Sunday stream, you guys can always catch us throughout the week, anytime you have free, and you can listen to us rant and rave just like we do tonight.
So we do such a good job at it.
And we do
and
such
there,
a good job.
You don't even have to see our faces.
Yeah, I mean,
who wants to
look at this? Nobody wants to look at this.
Uh-huh.
How did that Cadillac timing chain go? Not to change subjects. I'm still in the process of trying to get it put back together. Now, I will say, I do have the Cadillac chain and sprockets and everything and the front cover back on, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But getting all the accessories and stuff put back on, that's where I'm running into a little bit of a snag. Plus, I've been working on other stuff, plus going to training. So I've been busy.
Yeah, you had quite a bit of work this last week thrown in with 2 days of training. I always hate it when more than 1 day of training is thrown in there, especially when you're flat rate. You make more money at work than you do actually going to training.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I did come in and work the. So I got off of training and I got back to the shop about like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I ended up staying until 7. And I had another vehicle that I already pulled in and started working on the day prior I went to training, and knocked out a bunch of stuff on that to where I could actually make my hours for the week. So that was actually pretty nice. But moving on, YouTube for this week. Kyle, what you got going on?
I got a couple of really cool things coming up this week. I have one vehicle already kind of done. I'm going to be talking about shop equipment. We're doing a whole shop tour, kind of ran this one through on Saturday, going through all of the shop supplied equipment that is in our shop, going through each one of them, as well as some of my pet peeves on them being kept up, cleaned, gone through, every week. Something that some guys in the shop don't do very well, and just my pet peeves on some of those. Seeing Nathan says when we get to see a Scotch Lock video, never, ever,
I'm gonna
ever,
do one. I'm gonna do one.
and I'll delete it. Yeah, and then I'm going to be doing another video on the US based company, the Tribus, ratcheting open end flare wrenches that I was talking about earlier on in the stream, and that I posted on my Instagram account as well. If you guys want to see those a little bit ahead of time, go over to my Instagram account, Rust Belt Mechanic, over there, and you can check them out. There is going to be a nice little coupon code with those if you're interested on getting in on those early. They are pretty revolutionary. There's not really any other companies that make these wrenches worth a damn on the market right now. So it's really cool to see that. They're 100% made in the US. I know we talked about that earlier. It's a really cool thing to be able to see. And they're actually like 98% made in Ohio. So really cool to see that one. I'll be doing a video on that one for later in the week.
It's funny. Brandon Jones, which is another guy who lives here in town with us, he says Facebook keeps advertising them to me. And I don't know if they're the same company or not, but I keep seeing the advertisements for them too.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
have to find the website. It's Tribus, Tribus. Bring up that one. They're a local company. They've brought out their SAE, the standard sizes of these ratcheting flare nut wrenches. So they brought those out, and they've been out for just a couple of weeks. And their metric sizes are getting made and shipped this next week. So they haven't even come out yet on the market. So we're going to be seeing them very first off right here. Yep, there they are. That's the Tribus ratcheting wrench set. So they are nice open-ended ratcheting wrenches. They actually ratchet all the way around there. They've got a nice knurled outside into it, so you can ratchet it back if you have those. Yep, they're pretty awesome tools. So if you guys are interested in checking those out, I put the link and everything in my Instagram account, as well as a coupon code if you guys are looking to see in that one.
See, now the ad that I've been seeing on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure Brandon, the same one Brandon's been seeing, they're not for this specific make and model of this tool. Like the ones that they've been showing are actually chrome, but they still have the ratcheting head to them, just like this one does.
So I will, in my video, I'll find those, and I'm going to show you guys the differences in them, even though I don't actually have those other ones. You guys are going to see the differences in those and see how much better these are going to be. And like I said, they're made 100% in-house in Englewood, Ohio. I saw their facility, and I will be doing a video on their making of these wrenches in their facility. They don't make them for any other companies at all. So these other companies who are putting them out, they are actually a really cheap knockoff version from China. And in their description, I believe he was showing me in their description, in their tool, it recommends that you not use them on brake fluid because it breaks down whatever version of the bearing on that one. Which is like, all right, a flare nut wrench that you don't want us to use on brake fluid. How do you think that's going to work out?
Alex Franco says, how it's made, Rust Belt Mechanic Edition.
Yep, Justin Sturgill did get a set of them also to be able to do some reviews on. So yeah, these you are able to use on any fluid at all. Doesn't matter which ones. And the really cool thing about this one also is their coating. So normally on these wrenches, the chrome coating or whatever kind of the black oxide coating, these are going to be different in the way they're more like a firearm. The black nitrate or the black oxide coating is going to be just like your AR series or firearms. So that black coating isn't just a powder coated or a coating on the outside. It's actually chemically induced onto those.
So what it reminded me of when Kyle brought these home and let me see them, what it reminded me of is the same type of metal and material that your like the Snap-on punches are made out of.
Yes. Yep, pretty much for that one. That currently in these kits they go up to 7/8. Now in the future they have the dies and everything to go on the Imperial side, everything from 3/8 all the way up to 1 inch, and in the metric from 10 millimeter all the way up to 21 millimeter. They're not able to release all of them right off the bat. Starting off, they're just putting 5 in a set, their main 5 sizes into the set. I believe 15 through 19 is going to be in the metric sizes. I'll be able to have those for a video this next week. And then the Imperial sizes, obviously, they're coming in. I'm pretty sure it's 7/16 through 7/8.
Alex Franco said no 8 millimeter. Wah.
Not as of yet. Now they've
I'm
got
sure. I'm
lots of
sure after they.
plans and lots of different ideas in stock. I can't bring up any of that information just yet, but really great company. Like I said, made in the USA. Really cool.
Michigan Mechanics says they need a 22 millimeter that would be useful for O2 sensors.
Yeah, and that's most of the O2 sensors that we see are 7/8. Just
Yeah.
saying, most of the ones that we see.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, going back over, you said you got videos from this and a couple other things coming up. Me, I've got a. I'm going to be doing a video. Somebody asked me to revisit my flat rate video. They wanted me to revisit and say, basically go over how things have been since I've been in it for 6 months. So I may try to get one of those worked out, and then I'm going to. I've actually been thinking about getting a hold of Sinclair again and seeing if there's any new information or any new stuff going on down there that I might be able to do a video from Sinclair over. So I've got some ideas in the works. So you guys will have to make sure you're stay tuned. If you guys haven't done yet, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and also ring that bell for notifications on when I put out stuff. But also make sure you guys go over and hit up Mr. Rust Belt. I'm pretty sure most of you already have, but just out of precaution, make sure you go check him out too.
Alex says he's been loving the Nifty Tools versus the Thrifty Tools videos. Me versus Mick Bake on them.
I need to figure out some way to get in on this action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do the shifty tools, and I'm gonna go steal them out of your toolbox.
Dustin Gordon, I want to be able to answer his question on here just because he's asked me this on other platforms on UTI. UTI is not a bad place to go. I actually know quite a few people who are going there or have gone there before. It's a good school. However, it's expensive for what it is. It really is. It's costs 2 to 3 times as much as any other automotive school, especially in the local or regional level around here. Maybe look into some of those to where you might have to travel a little bit more comparative. You might end up saving some money in the long run. However, I can't say anything bad about their actual curricular system.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, we just passed the 1 hour mark, which unfortunately means it's time for us to head on out of here. So, again, make sure you guys go check out our channels and give us a subscribe, a like, and a bell notification whenever you get a free chance. Next week, we will be back on Sunday, I believe at 7:30. Correct, sir?
Yep. Next Sunday, we have something really big coming out. So this next Sunday is going to be over on my channel, and we are bringing in some representatives from Milwaukee Tools.
Milwaukee Tools.
Milwaukee Tools.
You mean that Milwaukee Tools?
Yep, the Milwaukee Tool brand.
What?
I'm gonna have a representative from Milwaukee on here to be able to ask all kinds of questions about Milwaukee, their tools, how they're made, where they're made, and you guys are going to need to bring your A game when it comes to asking some questions also. So make sure this next week I will put up a poll on YouTube as well as Instagram on certain questions that I want you guys to be able to put comments in to be able to ask away this next week. So please go over to my Instagram, follow that one, because like I said, I'm going to be putting question up sometime midweek or so on that subject line. I want to get your guys' input, or if you guys want to ask me personally stuff to be able to throw into this interview, you guys can either message me over there or get a hold of me over at therustbeltmechanic@gmail.com.
Now, Michigan Mechanic has already asked the main question: are they from Milwaukee?
They are. they
Done.
definitely are.
We don't even need those guys. We already answered all the questions.
Yep.
So make sure you guys tune in next week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on Rust Belt's channel. We're going to have some pretty important people, and you don't want to miss it. It's going to be a good one.
It is.
But until next time, this is Captain Ron and Mr. Rust Belt Mechanic signing off, and we'll see you next time.
You guys stay awesome.